Yes, we're dating, James. You're mine now. What are you talking about? This two-family house will be for me and James. Linda, you old lady, get out. Understood? My own sister stole my husband and my house. Well, it'll be them who'll have to leave in the end. My name is Linda. I've been a housewife married to James for 22 years. Our daughter, Susan, started living alone when she went to college. At the same time, my husband and I began living with my parents. The catalyst for this change was the need to care for our mother, Margaret. 5 years ago, our mother, Margaret, had a fall and needed caregiving. While they enlisted the help of a care coordinator, our father, Thomas, took on most of the caregiving responsibilities. However, our father, Thomas, also suffered a significant fracture after falling down the stairs. Thomas now required rehabilitation himself, making it impossible for the two of them to manage on their own. So, I started visiting them daily. I have a single sister, Nancy, who has always been flashy and self-centered. We're not exactly on bad terms, but we're not close either. We had drifted apart as adults, but I reached out to her about our parents' situation. Nancy unapologetically said, "Linda, you'll take care of them, right? You live nearby. I'm living with my boyfriend, so it's impossible for me. Bye." Nancy is in her 40s, but she talks like a high school girl. It seems like she hasn't changed. Even if she's living with her boyfriend, it's not an excuse to not care for our parents. Couldn't she at least show up occasionally or express some concern? I had no issue taking care of Mom, but managing my household while providing daily care was challenging. I hate to admit it, but I'm not young anymore. My physical and mental stamina aren't what they used to be. "Mom, don't overdo it. It's pointless if you fall ill too," Susan would say, worried about me. She's right. It's counterproductive if I collapse while taking care of my parents. I want to take good care of them and also have my precious Susan and James to think about. Health comes first. I've often fantasized about a magical drink that could instantly relieve fatigue and a supplement that would prevent weight gain no matter how much I ate. One day, my parents started a serious conversation. "We need to discuss something important," they said. It was about moving in together. "We feel terrible for burdening you and James. We'll pay to remodel our home into a two-family house so you can live with us," our parents said. I thought it was a great idea. Not having to travel back and forth would be a huge relief. However, I was concerned about what James would think. While James has had a good relationship with his in-laws since the beginning of our marriage, living with parents-in-law who require caregiving is undoubtedly a challenging proposition. Maintaining a good relationship often requires a healthy sense of distance. But to my surprise, James readily agreed. "Really? You're okay with it?" I asked. "Of course. Thomas and his wife are covering the remodeling cost, which is a big help. I work remotely and we don't own a house, so it's easier if you and I live with them and take care of them, right?" "Yes, that's true, but I was worried you might feel uncomfortable with the arrangement. Thank you so much for being so understanding." "Oh, you're always making too much of it. You know I'm not one for worrying about such things. Don't worry about it." I always loved James's kindness and easygoing nature. True, he's always been carefree. Leaving the house matters to me and can be a bit casual at times. "Dad's so sweet. I'll come visit too. My apartment isn't far from there." Susan also expressed her support. My parents, James, and I were grateful as we started our life together. Living together turned out better than expected. Everyone was more comfortable than we thought. I no longer had to travel 30 minutes by car, just a walk up and down the stairs, which gave me more time and peace of mind. I could care for Mom with a kinder heart, and even had the energy to cook elaborate meals for James. However, about a month into our new living arrangement, Dad passed away suddenly. He had been progressing well in his rehabilitation, but fell again, hitting his head this time. We were all submerged in grief. Mom, whose mind was still sharp despite her physical limitations, was deeply saddened. Her grief was so profound that I worried it might weaken her even more. After the funeral and burial, when things had settled down a bit, someone shockingly disrupted our grief. "Mom, can I live in this house too?" Nancy asked. "What? Why would you say that now?" "I haven't asked Linda, but now that Dad's gone, there's extra space and you must be lonely, right?" "Well, It was Nancy who suddenly proposed living together. Mom seemed a bit bewildered, understandably so. Nancy hadn't shown her face at home until I called her about Dad's passing. I was worried about Mom, but my boyfriend was so controlling I couldn't visit, she said. She had some nerve, never even making a phone call. Oh, weren't you living with your boyfriend? I recalled and asked, to which Nancy showed a sullen expression. I broke up with him. I want to start doing my part for Mom. Right, Mom? I can stay, can't I? But Linda and James have been living with us for a while now, so we should discuss it with them, Mom said, looking towards me. However, Nancy, as if she wasn't even considering me, said, I don't need Linda's permission. It's your house. Then she turned to James. James, is it okay if I live here too? I'm her sister. There shouldn't be any problem, right? Nancy looked up at him with puppy eyes, and James easily said, I don't mind. Wait a minute. Yay, thank you, James. You're always so kind, aren't you? Nancy knows how to charm. After not seeing her for a while, she still looked stylish and young for her age with great makeup. James was smiling at her sweetly, and I sighed inwardly. James had readily agreed to live with my parents, which is part of his charm, but this time I wished he would think it through a bit more. Nancy, who never helped with our parents' care, suddenly wanting to live together, felt quite abrupt. Although I was opposed to the idea, I remembered that Nancy is also a beloved daughter to Mom. Maybe Nancy had a change of heart after not doing anything for Dad before he passed. I clung to that slight hope. However, my expectations were quickly dashed. Nancy didn't help with the caregiving at all. Mom, are you okay? Well, I'm heading out, she would say. She was always out having fun. Not only did she neglect caregiving, but she also didn't contribute to cooking or laundry. It wasn't cohabitation. She was just freeloading. Our house had our mom on the first floor and our space on the second floor. I spent most of my time on the first floor. One day, coming back from the hospital with Mom and heading upstairs, I was surprised to find James and Nancy eating together. Oh, welcome back, James greeted me as usual. I'm home. Nancy, what are you doing here? What do you mean? This is my house too. Your place is downstairs. Why are you two eating together? James just got back, and Linda, you hadn't prepared dinner, so I thought it would be wasteful to cook separately. I made dinner for us, Nancy said, her attitude almost saying I should be grateful. It was just pasta with canned sauce. James seemed unconcerned, just eating his meal, but I wasn't pleased. If she had time, she should have prepared dinner for Mom. If she wanted to share it with James, that would be understandable. Anyway, just don't come up here without permission. Why not? I've decided to use your washing machine frequently. What? The one downstairs is old and you use it all the time. I'll do my laundry here instead. Wait, you can't just decide that. Thanks for the meal. See you later, James. After saying that, Nancy went downstairs. I glared at James. Has this been happening before? Huh? No, I just got home early today. You were at the hospital with your mom. It's not strange. We're family. That's true, but Nancy doesn't help with Mom's care at all. Next time you talk to her, could you mention it? Yeah, sure. The next day, Mom asked me with concern. I heard Nancy was upstairs yesterday. Was there a problem? Were you arguing? Nancy has always been willful, maybe because her father and I spoiled her. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Are you okay? She asked. What are you talking about? I'm not troubled at all. I'm happy to be by your side, Linda. Mom's eyes welled up. Since needing care, she seemed emotionally weakened. It's understandable, given that someone who was once so lively suddenly became unable to move as before due to a fall. The shock must have been greater than we can imagine. And now, with Dad gone, I didn't want to burden her further with my worries about Nancy. I decided to keep my grievances and doubts about Nancy to myself. However, I did occasionally vent a little to Susan, whom I met from time to time. Susan, now a college student, had become quite reliable and listened to my problems. Seeing her always gave me the strength to keep going. Months passed, and one night, James didn't come home until late. Nancy was often out, so her absence wasn't unusual. Mom had gone to bed, and I waited for James on the second floor. I'm home. Welcome back. You're late tonight. Wait, Nancy. I'm home, Linda. Nancy entered arm in arm with James. They both seemed to have had quite a bit to drink. Sorry. We got a bit carried away and lost track of time. What? I don't understand what you're saying. Don't look at me with such anger. That's why James wants to be comforted by me. What? I don't understand what you're saying. Let's make it clear today. Yes, we're dating. James is mine now. What are you talking about? I felt like my head was going to explode at Nancy's bombshell and provocative attitude, but I reminded myself to stay calm, very calm. I didn't want to wake up Mom, who was sleeping. This two-family house will be for me and James. Linda, you old lady, get out. Old lady? How dare you talk about me like that? Nancy's rough tone was probably due to her being drunk, but it was inexcusable. It's a waste of money to keep going to a hotel. Well, we've been using the second floor too, but I wouldn't want to use your bed. What did you say? I wanted to slap Nancy, but I restrained myself. I reminded myself that resorting to physical actions would mean defeat to someone who seems to live purely on instinct, like a wild animal. Now you understand, right? Leave quickly since James and I are in love. It must be awkward for you, Linda. James, are you okay with this? James just stood there, possibly too drunk to face me. So I asked him, no, I don't hate you, but you're always busy with caregiving. Nancy kind of pressured me into it. Ha ha ha, was this a joke? I knew James didn't think deeply about things, but I hadn't realized he was also a wild animal. It was like survival in the jungle, where even blood relations fight each other. I had a lot on my mind, but this was a turning point for me. I understand. Oh, how understanding of you. Can't help it since James said so. Now go downstairs. We're going to sleep up here. Prepare to leave with the old lady tomorrow. Holding back tears, I quietly went downstairs. Linda, Mom, I'm sorry. Did I wake you? I heard Nancy's shrill voice. I'm sorry, Linda, because of me you had to go through this. I hugged Mom as she started to cry. It's not your fault, Mom. We have to leave the house, but it'll be okay. I'll make sure to get a reliable care coordinator like always. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll be fine as long as I'm with you, Linda, but I never imagined things would come to this. Yeah, I nodded firmly while holding Mom's hand. A week after we left the house, the intercom rang. It was Nancy and James, looking about to cry. I responded formally. Yes, Linda, what's going on? Let us in, please. They'd come sooner than I expected. Nancy doesn't matter anymore, but I needed to discuss the divorce proceedings with James, so I had given him our new address and contact information. I let them in to avoid a scene outside, and Nancy immediately started ranting. Right after you left, a real estate agent came for a house appraisal. What's that about? Exactly what it sounds like. We're selling the house, so we needed an appraisal, that's all. What? How dare you? Just because Mom's dementia is settling in, you can't just do that? Mom doesn't have dementia. Don't say such disrespectful things. Anyway, it's not your house. You have no right to sell it. The one being unreasonable is Nancy. Then Mom appeared from the back room in a wheelchair. What is that? Susan, Nancy, and James exclaimed in surprise. Susan was pushing the wheelchair. When Nancy moved in, I hoped even a little that she would cooperate with Linda, but Nancy just wanted a place to live for free. Mom began to speak in a thin but firm voice. On top of that, you were having an affair with James, pushing my care onto Linda alone and then stealing James. Did you think Linda and I wouldn't notice? What? After speaking her mind, Mom took a deep breath. Thank you, Mom. I know it's hard. Let me explain the rest. I continued. I had already noticed what you were up to. At first, I wanted to believe in James, but unfortunately, I found out about the affair and told Mom. Mom nodded, catching her breath, while Susan glared at them more sharply than I could. Mom decided she couldn't live with Nancy and James anymore, so she decided to sell the house. Of course, I agreed and started looking for a real estate agent. What? Nancy's face showed shock. I was surprised when you told us to leave, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, you two would have to leave. That's so unfair. You said you were leaving easily and tricked us. How low? Low? Who's low? Huh? Whose voice was that? A low and frightening voice sounded, and it was Susan. Susan. Realizing this might be bad, I tried to intervene, but it was too late. The low one here is Nancy, you shameless person. What? I used to like you. You were beautiful and treated me kindly. She bluntly used the past tense for beautiful, and I couldn't help but laugh. But to dump Grandma's care on Mom and then seduce Dad, aren't you ashamed as a human being? Well, Nancy was speechless, outmatched by her younger, prettier niece's righteous words. Then James, misunderstanding something, desperately tried to explain to his daughter. You see, Susan, Dad was just seduced forcefully. I never stopped liking Mom. What are you talking about? Susan glared at James next. It was frightening. I had never seen Susan like this before. Was this what the kids call seriously angry? Indeed, Susan was the most infuriated about the whole situation. I will never forgive you for betraying Mom like this. Susan's firm declaration to James was like something out of a drama. She was impressive. Susan's reaction gave me a sense of relief. It felt like I didn't need to say anything more, but I decided to state the facts one last time, as we probably wouldn't see each other again. So please leave the house quickly. If you have any questions, ask the real estate agent. Wait, where am I supposed to live now? I don't know. That's not my concern as someone without land ownership and rights. Let me stay in this apartment. You're using Dad's inheritance, right? Then I have a right to live here too. Sorry, but this apartment is under my name, and I'm paying for it with my own money. What? No way. You, a caregiver and housewife, couldn't have that kind of money. I worked until the caregiving started. I received severance pay and have been investing in stocks since I was young, so I have some savings. What? I explained to a yelling Nancy. Nancy might be pretty and savvy, but she's not very bright, as I've always known. It's hard to understand for someone who has never worked much, relying on men and parents' money, right? Also regarding the divorce, I'll be filing for compensation as per the usual legal procedure. No, I'll leave the house. Just don't ask for alimony. We're sisters. How can you do this to your sister? You did terrible things first, even though we're sisters. I smiled as Mom nodded in agreement, and Susan delivered the final blow. If you cause any more trouble for Mom or Grandma, I'll expose everything using social media and friends. Got it, Auntie? No, not this. Nancy collapsed to her knees. I had to suppress a laugh when my daughter, who used to call her Aunt Nancy, now emphasized Aunt deliberately. Afterward, the two-family house we lived in was sold as planned, and James and Nancy were forced to leave. Nancy, jobless and without savings, tried to make James pay for her share of the divorce settlement compensation, leading to their quick breakup. James begged me for reconciliation, and Nancy also tried to return for the house and money, but of course I ignored them both. James paid me the compensation as per the divorce court's order and now lives alone in a cheap apartment. Nancy tried to find work as a hostess, but was turned down due to her age. With her reputation spreading in the town, she found it difficult to find a new place to leech off of and left for another town. I wonder who spread those rumors. Scary, isn't it? Mom and I finally live in a peaceful environment. Mom's health seems better, perhaps because of reduced stress and worries. Now, closer to Susan's apartment, she visits us once a week for a meal together. With James gone and household duties simplified, I started remote work. It's only a small income, but it's refreshing to do something different from caregiving and housework. It's a learning experience and provides stimulation. Seeing this, Mom seems happy for me. The peaceful time spent with Mom and my daughter are the most precious. I want to continue living each day energetically without losing sight of